run. And this was again reinforced this morning when I was speaking to someone who's in quite a fast growth business. And we were talking about sales being the illusion and lie of how to grow a business. Now, I realize I'll explain that a little bit more because you know how much I harp on sales and everything like that. It's an important element to it, but if you just do sales without the optimization of the things that happen when you grow your company, we have troubles. And the issue is that I was speaking to this guy and he's had a really good sort of, a 7-figure growth year, which is wonderful, very exciting, blah, 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 but it's irrelevant, the number versus what he's dealing with. And what he was speaking about was he wasn't looking forward to the next phase of his business because it was more of the same. And even though that he was now sitting in the position which he once dreamt of in terms of size of his business, what he wanted to be doing, he really wasn't looking forward to the year of more of the same, right? And you guys have heard me say it a million times before, which is you have to stick to the fundamentals and do the boring stuff over and over until we can put someone else in them. So we're not talking about the illusion of not doing sales, but it was understanding the phases of your business and what you're doing now and how that will change as you change as a business. And I want to explain that in a little bit of depth because I don't think it's spoken enough, but also in the terms that we can understand when we're that $0 to $5 million type revenue turnover, right? That's the size of business we're talking here. And what it is when you're doing more than one job in your business, so you're playing the CEO, you're playing the BDM, you're playing the technician, you're playing the problem solver, you're playing the HR department, you're playing the PR department, which I'm sure you've all felt with different hats on, especially all of those here who are self-funded, right? You have to put every hat on, and you've read the E-Myth, I'm sure, and all those sort of things, which is work out what you're good at. But at some stages, you better be good at everything because you're the only one who's going to be able to do it. There's no resource. It doesn't matter how much you're not a technician. You better be doing it. I'm hopeless at graphic design, but I tell you, I've designed a few logos in my time because I was the guy that needed to do it. There was no one else, right? So you do all these little things. But what this guy had gone through, and this is the bit I want to talk about today, and when we go off into our Q&A, I want to talk through some of the specifics of where you are as a business right now and why you're in that position now and what you're doing now that you won't be doing in the future but is a must now, and how we transition during that period. I'll explain it a little bit simply when we're doing some Q&A. But for this guy, what he didn't realize is he had just brought in some senior people into his business. And the senior people were now taking a lot of the roles that he had played in the past that he doesn't need to play now. And so he hadn't quite worked out the letting go of some of those roles, right? Because it was still in transition. But what he then thought was because he doesn't need to do those roles, what he has to do now is just more of the boring stuff around sales to make sure there's enough revenue coming in and grow the business. And go, no. You have to rebuild your growth department. You have to rebuild what a business of your size now needs to continually generate revenue, leads, and opportunities. It's not more of what you did as a small business. Small businesses, when they're big businesses, aren't doing the same behaviors. They may have people executing some of those tasks, which is, if they work, you're going to do them, right? But you're going to get someone else to do them. But it's now turning some of your efforts into more refined strategy. And for an example of that is if you look at your current sales strategy, whatever that is, you might be doing what I'd call just basically unsophisticated efforts, right? Just unsophisticated efforts. I'm going to turn up to every networking person I can say, and I'm going to sell my wares, right? I'm going to turn up to every market I have. I'm going to show everyone, and whoever's willing to buy, I'm willing to sell, right? That's what we do when we're getting to that first $1 million in turnover. But once you start freeing up your time, you need to bring in a level of sophistication around building a growth department. And some of you will still need this year to do the hustle part of it, right? And I don't like that word, but you'll do the bit where you're just selling your wares to anyone who'll listen. But as soon as we start to free up your time operationally, we need to break down your growth department and start looking at it as literally a business within your business that is there to generate leads. And what he didn't understand is each one of his big effort things he'd been doing for years and years and years, there were 5 or 6 opportunities to optimize to get a better result. And I'm sure a lot of you feel like that time, like you're just hitting your head against the wall with things that they work 1 in 50 times. but it's exhausting. And you're like, why do I have to do this? Surely there's a faster way. And then you see some Facebook ad that's like, I generated 100 leads with $88 and it's just all crap, right? Trust me, it's crap, because I started a social media agency to see if it wasn't crap. It's crap. It doesn't work like that. You may generate that sort of leads, but you don't understand the investment that's gone on the back end. You don't understand actually how many of those converted. You don't understand the type of person that goes to those sort of ads on Facebook is not your ideal client. They're ones who click on everything and it'll be short term. There's a whole lot of different stuff that happens. I'm not bagging Facebook ads. I'm just trying to explain to you that you have to understand your growth department. And because all of you are in that 0 to 5 million, give or take, for what I know of your businesses and why you'd be watching Backable, you've got to understand the stage you're playing, so you keep the enthusiasm of breaking through, knowing this isn't a forever thing for you. This is just getting what you need out of this period, so then we can put some more sophistication around your sales process to make it easier. And some of the things aren't effort, they're just execution at different times. For instance, when you've got a more established business, you start to work out when to ask for a referral. Most people take ask for a referral as just ask when you're ready. A good business understands the high points of their client journey and makes sure the timing is sophisticated enough to hit them at a point where they will refer you. Not, oh, because they've been here for 3 weeks. And when you've got that level of sales sophisticated, or in that level of sophistication, you start to get easier results. Sales become easier. You start to set up joint venture mechanisms where just by being operational, you'll get more opportunities. And then you've got a growing business, right? So your pool grows of people that would naturally refer, but because your pool's so much bigger, you actually get a much bigger influx every year. So 10% of 10 clients is 1, 10% of 100 clients is 10. 10% of 1,000 clients is 100, and you've done nothing different. And that's when you start to get the benefit of having a larger customer base. You start to get more staff that'll refer. You start to get bigger networks and all those sort of things. So the battle that we've all got together is, where are we in our sales journey, and where can we add 1 teaspoon of optimization? Where can we find one thing that we can do a little bit better? And let me use a really basic one. What if we just said joint ventures? Now, first question might be, do I even have any joint ventures? Awesome. Your first step might be create 1 joint venture partner, right? And that could take a year, the first one, because you're actually trying to work out all the nuance of it. It's not just speak to your buddy and go, we should joint venture. If you're lucky enough to have a buddy who can do that, great. But most of the time it's, who is my ideal joint venture partner? What is the value proposition to a joint venture partner? What is the marketing material and education I need to give to that joint venture partner? What is my nurturing program? What do I do when I get a client from the joint venture in terms of my communication back and forth to make the joint venture partner feel like they still know what's happening? How do I then re-engage? How do I then reward? So actually setting up your first joint venture is really quite difficult because you're building a whole new mechanism. But number 2 is easy because you got the sophistication. 2 to 5 suddenly gets your money and time back from all that effort. But this is how I want you to start thinking of your business. Is not, I need to do 20 hours of sales. It's, I need to build in 4 or 5 mechanisms that are repeatable, that are planned, that are intentional, and that are trackable. Because it's not sales, it's just relationships. Some of them are digital, some of them are face-to-face. Whatever it is that's a tactic. But I want you to understand where you are as a business, because if you're saying, listen, Tim, I just need to make some more money. Great. There's one way to do that. Get more people in the front door, right? How are we going to get more people in the front door? And if the answer is, but I'm doing my networking, the question will come back is that an effective strategy for you right now for where you are? Because if you've got a problem and you spend all your time networking, something's not working, right? And the conversation we had, or I had with this guy today was, why do you not track the things that you do? You assume. An assumption is hiding behind something you don't know. If you want to be a great business, you don't assume, right? You put an effort out, you see a return, and then you see where it falls down and you see if you can maximize it. So let me challenge everyone listening in today and say, pick your number 1 sales strategy. Tell me what you do and the client it's meant to attract at the end, and tell me where it falls down most of the time. And then the question's going to come, tell me how much time you spent in that moment of that transaction. Now, it sounds logical when I say it like that, right? We're all sort of nodding our heads and go, yeah, that makes sense. I go, no, but it's a lot more difficult than that, because you actually have to do it. You actually have to sit there and think, shit, I don't actually know my sales strategy. People come to me, which is to me like, oh, that's a worry. We need to fix that. That's a good problem, right? But it's not going to grow you fast enough. It's a passive thing. So you're pretending you're doing sales, but actually you're turning up to networking and waiting for people to ring your phone. That's a good way to lose. Just grow too slow, right? Because eventually the organic growth will happen, but you'll never be one of those high acceleration businesses, even if your product's brilliant. We have to build mechanisms in, because also equally, everyone here been exhausted from sales. Like the time you do sales is the time you don't want to. Where you get your most sales is when you generally don't need them. That's the irony of the whole bloody thing, which is, I think, very funny, which is when you're on a roll, it just keeps coming in. When you really need it, no one wants to have a coffee with you, right? And so this is why we have to look at it is, let's not fall in love with the sale or getting a client. Let's fall in love with building a mechanism that generates opportunities. Because that's how I sleep well at night, is I just want a machine that generates opportunities. That's it. And then I work out, well, once we have an opportunity, what am I not doing to either get them down a funnel to help them, or am I attracting the wrong type of opportunity? But I want to insist that we become fanatical this year on it. So even being part of the Backable, it is fanatical, not in a way of, I'm going to speak to everyone on the planet, because that's stupid. That's a waste of energy. It's, I'm going to be fanatical by knowing what I'm going to hunt, and I'm going to go find 10 of those bucks, whatever it is. Try not to use hunting analogies now that we're going public. You seem to, you can annoy people really quickly. So, but you understand what we're talking about, right? Is no one gets going to get a trophy here for doing the most work in a scatterbrained approach. It's not impressive. There's enough hard work as a business owner to do everything, let alone waste energy on sales going, no one loves my business because I get no leads. I go, but you're hanging out with all the wrong people. Why are you still hanging around with the same networking people you've spent 3 years and you've got 4 referrals? Why have you got that time? Now, I'm using an example. This is not specific to any sort of networking. It is questioning the things that are working and seeing if you can optimize them, and really questioning the parts of your process that aren't working so we can fix them and buy back some time. I don't want you to do unlimited sales. I want you to generate a certain amount of opportunity so we can build the business around you, put in some more infrastructure, and then you teach someone else in your business how we can generate more. Because then you become scalable, because you know how to attract the client, you know where to find that client, and you know how to hunt them. That's a teachable skill, right? If your business, and in your business, you are the lead BDM and that is your only role, wonderful. Build a team around you to optimize putting you in the key impact areas of your funnels. So for me, I get wheeled out in my business when a client hits a certain stage. They've got to be a certain revenue level, or they've got to represent multiple clients, or they've got to represent. If every Tom, Dick, and Harry said, I'm not signing with anything you guys do until I speak to Tim, we'd never get anywhere. And I would be negligent in my duties as a CEO. But that takes a little bit of time, and you've got to build the team around you to get to that point, right? But you have to understand where you're at in the sales mechanism, and understand that it's not going to be like that forever if you treat it like a machine now. This is what I did. This is where it fell down. What did I change? Let's repeat. This is what I did. It didn't fall down the same way, but it still fell down. What do I need to change? This is what I did. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. Now, if I look at people like knowing Gary here, who's on live and he's running a gym and something like that, for a PT or a business owner or a service-based business, a lot of time people are trying to sell. But actually the game is how many relationships in the right area can I make? Because nobody buys in that sort of business, or not enough people buy because they know what they want. They buy because they like the person, and then build trust around the what they provide, and then it expands like that. So the sales mechanism goes from trying to sell memberships to How do I meet enough of the right people so they start liking what I'm about and then bring it in, right? But that's the stage he's at. When he's running multiple sites or he's got tens of hundreds of trainers, there'll be whole branding mechanisms, there'll be whole social media, there'll be digital marketing integration, and it'll just be about opportunity, right? Like some of his competitors would have sales teams on the phone that their whole job is, how do we get people in for a 10 pass trial, because we know the right people stick. So we can almost give out as many of those as we want, because trainers, that's their opportunity. If anyone's ever bought a gym membership here, they always go, oh, we'll throw in a couple of PT sessions. That's not because they like you. It's getting their trainer into a sales opportunity while you're hot to fix to change your body and your lifestyle, right? That's what it's about. And so you got to ask yourself, in your mechanism, where are you getting opportunities from the right people? Where's your equivalent to your 2 PT sessions with the gym membership? Is there anyone else that can provide that? They're the sort of joint ventures, but that's strategy versus just tactical things. Who are the people that build you into their process in their business? Because then you become infinitely scalable, right? Imagine if you had 100 people that every part of their interaction with the client included trialing you as a client. How would that change your world? And so while we're doing the little hustle things, because we still have to do the work before we've got all this strategy in and we're developing them. But the way we need to think about it is, then what's the one thing I'm trying to build that becomes an infrastructure in my growth department? The challenge going back into it is a lot of people don't think they need the work. This is a small business problem. I've got enough work at the moment, and any more work could be overwhelming, right? And so for me, you guys know I call bullshit on a lot of that, right? Because I'm like, why? When we can't be arrogant enough to turn on and off the tap, it doesn't work like that. It's about breaking the seams of your business, putting volume in to see what would happen. What would happen if you had too many clients right now, honestly? And you find a way. You just would. It would be uncomfortable maybe for a little while, or you might not make money on a few of the clients because you'd have to overpay to get some people to help, or you'd have to build some infrastructure in place, or you'd need to outsource. But it would change the way you operate, because it just does. And I'll give you an example. When we owned a bunch of gyms years ago in one of my businesses, we hired the building next to ours to expand. Okay, that was our first expansion going. We're full at all the premium times. And we're like, we can't fill any of these other times. Oh, well, let's just hire the building next door and see what happens, right? We're really unsophisticated. What do you reckon happened in the first 12 weeks? We were full at all the premium times in the next site because we were running small business. So there was set times. So what it told us is around capacity and where we're busy, we could keep being busy. But most people would be too worried because they can't fill the off-peak times. They would never expand. We have to work out in our business, where are we creating growth? We're creating growth problems because we're not looking at the business with fresh eyes. We're not looking at, I can get this type of client any day of the week, but they bore me, so I'm trying to get a new client. If that client's right, find someone else to do the boring work for you. Or I can get this type of opportunity, but it doesn't seem a challenge anymore. So what? You'd be so surprised when people have the right incentive to grow their business, that what they do. As soon as business owners find other people in delivery, magically they can grow their businesses because they're not scared of getting the work. And you understand that subconsciously, you're actually trying to get more off your plate. So even in your interactions, when you're trying to look at your growth department, you're secretly sabotaging it. You're not pushing as hard as you can. You're not being entrepreneurial with opportunities. You're not trying to find ways to make it work. So that's the discussion I want to have today. And Nigel, we might say goodbye to everyone who's in the public domain now, because let's open this up and workshop some of the real problems or real challenges in our business, where we can see if we can remove a gap and see if we can get a different result and start to accelerate